Welcome to the annals of my Nintendo Wii. This is the SD card menu, which is where pretty much all of my downloadable and virtual console and WiiWare games lie. I did have to get a lot of these for the WiiWare Chronicles. So most of these I did not have when I was younger. I had Mega Man 9, I had Fluidity. That's probably about it on this page. And I downloaded a couple of demos when I was a kid. I had TV Show King 2, who didn't? And most of the virtual console games I had. And the Mario Kart channel, which I barely ever used. I just didn't really feel much need to, because usually the entire point of like these Wii channels was to have something to access your game files when when you don't have the disc in the system, like the Wii Fit channel. The Wii Fit channel was basically like, oh yeah, what are my stats? But I was kind of, I don't know, it was a little weird because I was kind of thinking like, okay, what's the point of that when if I really care about like what's going on in Mario Kart or what's going on in Wii Fit, I'm probably going to just play the game, so whatever. But today, I wanted to go over something that was pretty important to me as a kid, something that I played quite a bit that I can't find right now. But I was a big fan of WarioWare D.I.Y on the Nintendo DS. It was it was the second, or it might have been the third at that point, WarioWare game on the DS. You had WarioWare Touched near the launch of the system. That was mainly completely focused on WarioWare micro games that are touch based. And then possibly after it might have come out after DIY, but it was around there. It was WarioWare Snapped on the Nintendo DSi, which was a super tiny WarioWare game. It was mainly focused on using the camera system of the DSi, much like a Kinect game. It worked okay, but there wasn't much to it. Like it was basically like a micro game collection. But WarioWare D.I.Y was pretty much like a full-fledged WarioWare game. However, it was entirely based around a game creator. And here it is. But this isn't it. This is WarioWare D.I.Y Showcase for the Wii, which was pretty much a Wii version. It was weird. It was pretty much like a side game to the DS version, kind of a supplemental title where it was, you could still play it on its own as if it was a WarioWare game, but the DS game was like the true where the true meat of it was. We'll see it here. See, look at this. You can move around and you can like zoom in and out and bam. But I always loved the idea of game makers. When I was younger, I loved the idea of like being able to have my own things. You might have seen how like I loved making my own like DVDs. I burned them off of like Windows Movie Maker or iDVD when I got a Mac. And I loved making my own like magazine and comics and stuff like that. And obviously, I would have loved having my own games at that point as well. But that was a lot trickier. I remember I bought something from like the school book fair or like the Scholastic book catalogs that you would get from school, and it would be very much like, oh, here's some books you can order, and then they would come in to the school, they would be delivered to the school and you'd get them through there, but every now and then they would have video games. And I remember I got Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games that way, but also I think it was Video Game Tycoon or something like that, where it wasn't completely like Roller Coaster Tycoon or Zoo Tycoon. It was Video Game Tycoon, and it apparently allowed you to make your own video games and burn them onto DVDs to play them on other computers. And I was like, oh my god, that's insane! And it never worked on my computer. It just did not work on my computer, and I was so upset. I still don't know what that game was. Who knows? It might not have even been that. It might have just been like a fake video game maker, where it's like, oh yeah, make this video game and try to sell it to people or something. Kind of like Game Dev Tycoon, kind of like that game. But no, like, where it's like it simulates like, oh yeah, like type in your video game name and then say what you want it to be and then see how well it does on the market with reviews and sales. It probably wasn't that, but even then, if it was exactly what I thought it was probably pretty limited. Like it was probably like, oh yeah, use some assets here and that's all you could do. I kind of wanted to make my own thing where it was like, oh, you could look at that and you would be like, oh, that's super unique. That's Scott's game. I wanted to make games based on like all the characters and random junk that I would make as a kid with like those random videos and shows I would make. And one of the ways I could do that was with WarioWare D.I.Y. Very limitedly. Unfortunately, I sold my copy of WarioWare D.I.Y., my childhood copy. I have one now. But I played that game a ton. And one problem I had with it was it is very tutorial dependent. You really have to get down to the nitty gritty with that game. Like you need to commit to learning how to create stuff for that game. But I will give it this, like it kind of gave me a good idea of like actually how video games are developed. Not to a huge extent, but it kind of gave you super basic, very light programming like classes pretty much. And it kind of helped me figure out like, oh, so this is how that works and whatnot. Of course, the games you would make were very much limited to 5-second micro games in a WarioWare style, but like it was still really cool to be able to do that. And what you could do though was you could take your WarioWare D.I.Y. games and import them to this game, which is the Wii game, WarioWare D.I.Y. Showcase. So that's how I was able to save all of my games. Like I remember looking back at this game a couple of years ago, and I was like, "Oh my god, all my games are here! This is incredible!" So let me see exactly. I believe maybe I even have comics. I don't know. I did not import any comics. I kind of felt you can make comics, music, and games in WarioWare D.I.Y. The problem with comics was literally like I can make comics on paper, so it didn't really grab me. But something like this, all of these things were made like in WarioWare D.I.Y. But it was basically that. So wasn't as big for me. Also, I doubt I made any music. Yeah, I just didn't really have a huge musical bone in my body. But again, like you can make music in WarioWare D.I.Y. kind of like how you could in like Mario Paint or something like that. But this is the main guy right here. Like most of all of the WarioWare D.I.Y. games, like these are like the Nintendo games that are included, and these are literally like, these were creatable. These were created within the WarioWare D.I.Y. toolset. So you could go into these games and edit them and use assets from them and stuff. It was really, really cool. But for some reason, I only had DIY 1 filled and then DIY 3. But yes, these are all my games. I had them all based around the characters I had in my magazine, which was Wozniak News Magazine. So I can try to explain these as much as possible. Save the day. Let's see. This was July 4th, 2010. I don't know if that was when I made it or when I imported it. But yeah, W1 software. That's Wozniak News software. Let's see. Yeah, you hit the eye to like spit out a laser beam. So that's Super Pickle from the Funky Pickle comics. That's how he's destroying a meteor there. Obviously, like, I think of it, I still, like, thought of creating these games in the WarioWare style. Of course, I think that's the only way you can really do, the only games you can truly make in WarioWare D.I.Y. They're very, very simple. You have, like, one specific thing you have to do. but you hit his eye, and then boom. I'm a little bummed out at my at how I still like, you can see the animation cut off at the bottom there. Like, come on, Sky, you should have known better than that. But other than that, it looks pretty good. I'm still pretty happy with this one, but you know, the explosion looks a little weird being in the air, and it's a mushroom cloud. No, no, no! But yeah, that's Save the Day. It's art! This was a day before. This was probably when I imported them. There, I remember that one. It's Super Pickle again. He was sort of the mascot later down the line of Wozniak News Magazine. It's a newborn sentient pickle with a diaper and a cape. He's a superhero after all. But yeah, paint. I don't know why. There's plates. There's plates there. I think because, like, I was probably like, oh yeah, paint, but it also looks like a tomato. So it's art. The disco pickle, again, same deal. Yeah, this was May 14th. Yeah, honestly speaking, this might have been when these were made. Yeah, I honestly feel like since these were July 4th, I could imagine it was something where, like, I was kind of, like, stuck at, like, a family thing. And I was, like, showing my other cousins, like, hey, look at this. You guys want to make a video game? This is Disco Pickle. Look at him. Make a pose. There you go. See, he's dancing. Or he's just kind of like, yeah, make a pose. You have to... I'm pretty happy with that one. That's a pretty good one. I have no idea how I was able to do that as a kid. I was able to figure out the programming enough to do something like that. Because... like, at the end, he still dances, and it kind of goes along to the music. I have no idea how I did that. And the problem is I don't have the original game that I built these in, so I probably can't go in and see all the work I did, but I was pretty happy with this. Again, that always bugs me when, like, when you know, like, artists cut off like that. I'm like, come on, Scott. Actually, no, that was fine. I don't know what happened there. Where, well, actually, no, the animation hit it. There. I'm talking about, like, the stem of the disco ball. It just kind of, like, ends there. There's no, like, you know, I wish I would have at least completed it, like, put a black line on top of it. Instead, it looks very incomplete. But that's really my only problem with this one. This is pretty good. I was happy with that one. Super clones. So, I think this potentially... I believe that was a reskin of a game Nintendo supplied in WarioWare D.I.Y. I'm not sure, but this seems kind of like something that was like... I can imagine this was like... Because you know in WarioWare, whenever... Whoa! You know in WarioWare, they do a lot of like... Oh, let's reference, you know, an older Nintendo game. I believe this might have been like a micro game based on Zelda 1 and you know, Link, you know, sword or something like that. It seems very much like that. Also, this was the evil Dark Pickle. This was Super Pickle's twin brother. Evil twin brother. No, he died. Yeah, I think that was a reskin. It's Super Clones. Yeah, that seems more like, whatever. Okay, so this is Oven Dude, or Odie. He was a part of the Weird League, which was a different comic in Wozniak News Magazine. Where it was just superheroes. And they had stupid, powers. He had a microwave on his head. That was just his thing. He just had a microwave on his head. So let's see. Touch. That's it. I don't think he does anything. Maybe he does something if the music note touches him. Yup. But that's it. There's the Dark Pickle thing. There's a Dark Pickle game. It's just Dark Pickle. See, because he's evil. Yeah. So I assume it would be kind of like, it's like a giant Godzilla-esque monster. And you're like, fire the laser, boom. Might have been another one that was a reskin, but it does remind me, very odd reference. This reminds me of like, like Super Godzilla on the Super Nintendo, where it's like you have this top screen that shows action, but the bottom screen is just like all these stats and stuff, and you're like, okay, do this, Godzilla, and that's it. There you go. Star count. There's Super Pickle again. I was getting really into shading characters around then. Oh god, I gotta count the stars. There we go. I was really into shading character, like as time went on, and I was getting more and more elaborate with like the art in my comics, or just in general, like in terms of cartoonish art, because I was taking art classes around this time, so like I was becoming classically trained, but I didn't care. I was just like, no, I want my characters to have more like shading, something, you see a little shadow, and no, it was like a little shadow, but it doesn't stop at like the pickle portion you see like there in the diaper portion. I was getting really invested in like just putting shadows like that on characters, even if it wasn't very like, even if it didn't make sense perspective wise. I always like my characters to have shadows near the end of that. It is very nice that I apparently randomized where the stars were. Boom. See, I mean, like, I'm pretty impressed with myself. They are very much WarioWare games. They're kind of boring WarioWare games that aren't interesting, but they still feel like WarioWare games. Can smash. Super Pickle again. Let's see if he smashes a can. He does. I think I was pretty happy with that animation. Again, I'm very sorry if it turns out some of these that was definitely made by me. I know how I draw back then. But like some random things might have been reskins, some things might have been assets from other things in the game. I forget, but this is all totally me, from what I remember. Air Command! What is this? Oh god. Apparently this didn't matter at all, so like you have to well, it's not Air Command, it's parachuting. Yeah, I don't think this matters at all, like when you do it. Let me see. Go down. Wait. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Let me try another. Let me just not do it. Okay, yeah, apparently it doesn't matter at all. Alright, there's Air Command. Moon Pickle. Blow up. Oh god. That was very much... it's pretty much the exact same as a lot of other ones I've done. Problem is you can still see the laser behind it. Like it's right there. It's supposed to come from his eye. Like his eyes are shooting lasers, but you can see it behind him. Like this background, that background was like a paint asset, like a paint bucket tool you could do in the game. Same with like the moon texture and whatnot. Earth was all me. And there's a glitch where like you can still win. You can still win here, but he still does like the death animation. Like watch this. That's the death animation. Yeah, he still does the death animation sometimes even if you win. So, unfortunate, but that's okay. I think this one was a better variant of that. Let's see, Super Chef. Again, it's just Super Pickle. He was very easy to draw. A pretty decent design back then, so I was like, alright, that's fine. You know, he was always kind of a go-to, where it's like, he didn't have any limbs, so it was kind of easy to just put him in all these scenarios, I guess. Just have to hit that egg open. That's it. That's all it is. What do you hit on? The rolling pin? There you go. See, this was before I ever cracked an egg open myself, I'm pretty sure, because I was like, you know what? How do you do it? With a rolling pin, probably. Dodgeball. That's like the ball from Rugrats. Let's see. That's it. You just throw it at him. You just throw it at him. I think I liked using him in a lot of these games because he had no limbs, and like when I wanted to be an animator, but I was just not confident with my ability to draw like walk cycles and whatnot. Like walk cycles and lips were not for me. Like animating lips to mouth movements to like what the character should be saying and whatnot. So I think Super Pickle there, just, you know, he bounced around. He was just a pickle. So, you know, bouncing around. That's it. All right. Super Dress. He's naked. Let's see. That's it. That's it. You just pick one or the other. It's not... Neither one is bad or good, but he doesn't animate well to that one, but he says, like, oh, yeah, I like that. I think possibly. I think the way I should have done it is like, okay, you have to put the diaper on first and then like the overalls. And then that would be fine. Because then it's like, oh, we got to put the diaper on first and then you have to put the overalls on. But no, I think it doesn't matter which one you put on. You're still going to win. Desert Odie. So this is Oven Dude running in the desert. This was my attempt to do like a walk cycle or a run cycle, if you will. Oh man, this might have been a slightly hard one. Yeah, I lost that one. It's a bit trickier. There you go. You got to jump the rock, but it's pretty fast. But yeah, that was one of my better run cycles as a kid. It wasn't great, but it was better than a lot of the other ones I've done before. But yeah. Boom. Yeah, was the flag animated? Probably not, but let me see. No. But you can lose, but you can still win afterwards. But you still lose. The Great Caper. This is in April. I believe April 2010 was when I got this game or something. So I remember this was a big springtime for me. Oh, yes. Oh, I reused assets! Because that was this exact sprite I used in the star game. Where you count the stars. No! Yes, so you have to get the cape. And that's it. And for some reason I made the background this graffiti-ridden wall. But it still works. Alright. Oven. Oh, this one was one of my worst. Yep, that was definitely one of my first ones, I remember. Hit button. You're welcome. The button duplicates at the end. It's not even... It's like, why? He changes the... Okay, I guess the light bulb looks different because, like... Well, I mean, the light bulb appears because it's like, oh, wow, you turned the light bulb on. But yeah, this is one of my first. And that's it. Oh, this was my first. I remember this one. Super Jumper. Make Super Pickle jump. So I apparently got this game on April 2nd. Yeah, I remember this being a big springtime game. I remember playing this on the on the road to like something Easter related. So this was a big springtime 2010 game for me. You just tap him to make him jump. This background is asset heaven. Is reusing it. Like that tree was definitely not made by me. That was a Nintendo supplied tree. The grass was me, and the sky was. And Super Pickle was me, and he's doing a little... I like that animation. I'm pretty happy with that animation. I probably didn't, like, think it through that much, but, I like how it looks, there's, like, a nice... You know, like, it makes the most out of using 2 frames. And it's an interesting pose where it's just like he's kind of like just nodding his head, which is kind of hard to do for a character with no limbs. And it's just like and it's just like their head is technically pretty much the same as their neck and their torso and their bottom. So I'm happy with that one. But yeah, you just make him jump. Then what are these? All right, so this was done by one of my little cousins. This was done by one of my little cousins. And that's it. That was not me. But it was a part of my game. I think so I did this one. Not that bad. You just have to punch yourself in the face. You know, I was talking to my little cousin. I was just like, hey, what game do you want me to make? And he was like, oh, man, make a guy punch himself in the face. So I was like, all right. So I did it, and I showed it to him. This is after I learned how to make games in general. So I was kind of like, hey, just, you know, what game do you want me to make? There you go. That game. Swings back. I'm pretty sure this was a similar thing. I was like, what do you want a game to be on? You fall off a swing. And I think I was like, oh, I'm going to try to whip this together as quickly as possible. Oh, swing, jump off of it. So that was it for that one. Gun. I don't know. I think this was just like a really... Oh, man. I forget the context of this one, but I just thought like, oh, man, pop a balloon. Oh, man. This one's slightly tricky. This could be an actual WarioWare game. There! Okay, same deal where it's literally like, you saw how that animation was where it's just like, it's in a box and stuff. You know, if I tried to do that now, I would definitely avoid doing stuff like that. Oh, man. That one's pretty tricky. Swift thumbs. Oh, man. So I think this is... Yeah, this was another reskin where I wanted to turn stuff into like Wozniak News Magazine themed stuff. Again, like it just cuts off there. I hate that. But yeah, I definitely reskinned that to be like super pickle themed. But yeah, that might have been another one. Like these might have been done with like my little cousin or something where I was just like, hey, like, how do you want to do, like, I don't know, I would ask him, like, hey, what game do you want me to make? And it would be like, oh, I'm going to allow you to hit a can. So I would be like, all right. And then I was probably like, oh, I can reskin that to be Can Smash. What came first? That April 28th. That was May 11th. So it was probably like he asked me to do that, but he wanted it to be specifically like he was like, I don't want it to be a pickle. I want to hit it with a fist. And there we go. And I think this is the final one, Super Sand. This might have been the final game I ever made in WarioWare D.I.Y. That seems pretty late. Oh, no! Yeah, so you have to... That's another one that could be a WarioWare game. Again, a lot of these might have been, like, just taking, like... Some of these specifically may have been games that Nintendo supplied and then I reskinned. I don't think this was, though. That foot is definitely a Nintendo asset, and those clouds are. Everything else was mine, and that Super Pickle sprite is a reskin. That might have been a new sprite, though. That right there, where he looks sad. Let me see. Because I don't recall that from anything else. Bam. But yes, that is my WarioWare. Those are all the games I have preserved, and I assume those are all of them. I can't recall any that were not showcased here. But yeah, those are all my WarioWare D.I.Y. games as a kid. I spent my childhood wisely.